Men, you only have 18 summers to create a lasting connection with your children. 18! Do you feel distant from one of your children right now? Or maybe you've made the mistake that so many guys make, and you think that being in close proximity to your children is the same as spending quality time with them. If that is you, stay tuned. We're going to give you 3 simple steps to create lasting connections with your kids. Men in the Arena Army, I salute you. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Men in the Arena podcast. This is Jim Ramos. I'm your host and guide for this week's show, helping you become the best version of a father, husband, and man inside the stress bubble of life and beyond. Welcome to Spotify's #1 podcast for Christian men. This week's hero story comes from the Wardenator on Apple Podcasts. Anyway, he gave us a 5-star review saying this: every man needs to listen to this podcast. Man, I'm so grateful for this podcast. They cover everything from fatherhood to being a husband to being a leader and more. Thanks, Men in the Arena. Hey, thank you so much. And Wardenator, hit us up at info@meninthearena.org with your physical address. We'll send you some swag. Hey guys, stay tuned to the end of our interview today for our weekly man law. Guys, you will not be disappointed this week. It's so powerful, we had to make it anonymous. And hey guys, I'm excited today to bring on our guest, Jim Sheils. Jim lives in Florida with his wife of 13 years, Jamie Lee. Not Jamie Lee Curtis, Jamie Lee Sheils. Jim's a successful real estate entrepreneur, best-selling author of The Family Board Meeting, which is our subject today. He was motivated to write this book when he saw men who were living in the stress bubble of life tragically disconnected from their families. Guys, we see this all the time. Since then, Jim has helped hundreds of men, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders from around the world to focus and implement where it really counts, in the home. Jim's simple methods can be integrated instantly and provide immediate, deeper connections for men and their families. And guys, I read this book and I'm telling you, it is true. If you are living in that stress bubble like most of you are, this is going to help you connect with your kids. So Jim, it's great to have you on the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jim. It's great to be here.
Been a long time coming. We just kind of back and forth it. So I'm super excited to have you on, and I love your first name.
Yeah. If we forget each other's name on this episode, we're in a lot of trouble.
They don't name people Jim that much anymore. We don't meet a lot of Jims, little Jimmies running around. That name's kind of getting obsolete.
I guess I'll always be around as long as I'm around, but I don't know about, further down the line.
Yeah. Well, I've got, my grandpa was Jim. My dad was Jim. I'm Jim. My son is James. And he's already told me their firstborn is going to be named James. So we're going to keep it rolling, baby. Keep it rolling. Hey, let's jump in today and just I want to hear a little bit more about you, things you enjoy, what makes you tick, a little bit more about your story.
Yeah, I'm a father of 5, 3 adopted, 2 biological, ranging from age 1 to 19. So I've got quite a range. Have never expected to write a book on family life. For sure. I was a real estate investor. I felt underqualified, and I'm not a family therapist. I'm not a psychologist. But sometimes I think people just want to hear vulnerability and simple action steps from someone in the trenches alongside them. So I wouldn't know what perfect family looks like because we don't have one. But we have figured out a few simple rhythms and strategies to help thousands of families all over the world. And that's what I wrote the book about. So my company, 18 Summers, along with my real estate, we've helped a lot of families make sure, it's one thing to be successful in business, but I think it's even harder today to be successful at home. And that's what our book and our strategies are about. Why can't you have both? Be successful and business in your career and be successful at home.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've seen a lot of disconnect between goal-driven, high-octane entrepreneurs, and sometimes it seems like they aren't able to bring it into the home. It doesn't translate into the parenting. And so I know that your target is entrepreneurs, but I'll tell you what, our target is guys in the stress bubble of life. They're between 28 and 48 years old, 50 years old with kids in the home. And man, this is a massive struggle. In your book, you wrote this. You said, I was saddened to watch these talented, wonderful people drift away from their children on a tide of distraction, stress, and regret. So I'll tell you what really hit me about your book wasn't the title, it was the subtitle. Can you tell us about the subtitle of your book and why it's so powerful?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's based on the name of our company. It says you have 18 summers to create a lasting connection with your family. There was a study shown that the average person will spend almost 85% of the quality time they ever have with their children by the end of the 18th summer. And when you think about it, that makes sense because it starts to minimize there. You're probably hanging out with your 5-year-old a lot more than your 25-year-old. At least probably you should be. And things start to minimize. And once that's gone, that's gone. So you'll still have opportunities, but the opportunities are more limited. And, one thing I've learned doing this for the last 10 years, if you do those first 18 right, then I think you're going to have more time. You don't have 15% less time left. You have 20, 25, 30, 35, especially when you're intentional. If you don't do those first 18 right, there's no guarantee that, you're, even as hard as you work, that you're really going to have a close relationship or you're going to be part of your children's life. And that's hard and sad to hear, but that's the truth. And I've seen it too many times.
Yeah. Last weekend we went, you like to surf. I like to hunt. We went duck hunting with my 3 sons and I call him my adopted son, 4 of us. We had a great time. And I thought, these guys are 28, 26, and 25, and they're spending time with their dad.
Yeah.
And what I've learned, tell me what you think about this. When my kids are in the home, they don't have a choice. They have to be in the home, and I control the relationship as the parent. But when these kids enter their 20s, I end up reaping what I sown in the home. And if I didn't sow quality time, I'm going to reap adult children who don't want to spend time with me. It's the cats in the cradle lived out in real time.
It is. And another thing with people out there in the stress bubble, they think, oh, money is going to solve everything. If I had the money, I had the money. There's a popular story that I talk about a lot about a guy named Walter Isaacson. And Walter Isaacson's claim to fame is he was Steve Jobs' biographer.
Oh,
we all know Steve Jobs. And so there was an article sent to me right after Steve Jobs passed away, and it said that Steve Jobs spent his final days surrounded by close family and used the opportunity for final interviews to explain to his wife and children why he wasn't always there for them. And there were some quotes about Jobs saying, I wanted them to understand why, and I hope they understand. And this guy Isaacson, I don't know him again, but I just read the article at a pretty pivotal time in my life. He said, Steve, are you glad you had a family? Are you glad you had children? Which is a pretty powerful question. Dying man, arguably one of the most successful, businessmen of all time. And Steve fired back an answer and said it was 10,000 times better than anything I'd ever done. But here's a point of clarity for a person who had more money than he knew what to do with. He would have traded it back and then some. And I think that's where it's a huge lesson here. And it's easy for us to all go, oh, well, I read some stuff about Steve Jobs. He had a reputation for being a cold-hearted jerk, right? Yeah, but where would we be if the rug of health was whipped out from underneath us right now, or where you are right now? Would you be in the same situation in 6 months trying to do final interviews? I know at the time I read that, 11 years ago, I would have been. And it made me change. And at that point in my life, I was, growing our family from 2 to 5 children. We were having miscarriages. I was just going through the adoption of my 2 oldest. We were bringing back our business from near extinction from the, financial meltdown of 2008, and I had just been approved to donate a kidney to my father like earlier. So there was a lot of going on. When you get pushed to a point of critical, Jim, your perception changes. Mm-hmm. You just can't be the same. And the way I viewed family life changed forever. How I viewed business, how I viewed time, how I viewed following the protocol of what is supposed to be done in many in many society circles, and I just said, nah, I can't look at things the same, and that's how we started doing things differently. And the book is about some simple principles that a lot of people don't do, but you can easily do to make differences quick and really clearly.
Yeah, I thought the book. I read a lot of books, man, and a lot of books for men, a lot of books on families. And so you have a unique niche here that I thought was really interesting. You're talking about Stephen Jobs. It reminded me of a quote I read probably in the early 90s by business, icon Lee Iacocca. He said, I've never seen a man on his deathbed say, I spent more time at the office. Right. And we just want to be those guys that look back and have regrets and we look at the people who will mourn over our grave. Will it be mourning out of regret that they never knew their dad, or mourning because they loved us and we're so connected to them? And that's really what your book is about. And I really appreciated that. And so you said something, you defined something early on in the book. It's a small book. So, guys can pick this up. It's really man book. It's like 100 and something pages. It's just a easy read. But you said early on, you said it became increasingly clear that it was a lack of the vital element of quality time that was to blame, and not entrepreneurship or not being busy, right? So when you talk about quality, you really draw a distinction here between quality time and quantity or proximity time, right? Like, I'm in the house with you guys. So can you unpack your definition? I think this is really important for our men. How do you define quality time?
Yeah, so there's different degrees, but let me tell you what's not quality time.
Yes.
Not quality time is talking on the phone, listening to a podcast, and having your kid in the back seat, driving them somewhere. So you're paying them no attention. You're doing other things. I'm not saying, hey, don't listen to Men in the Arena and, be getting your work done. But if your kid's in the back, that's not quality time. Don't
Agreed.
get it in. Your child's watching TV and you're kind of looking over the shoulder or sitting down a little bit and watching that. Now, I enjoy a good show or movie with my kids sometimes, but if you're just dead air all the time or talking, or you're both sitting there on your phone scrolling in the same room, not quality time. There is no deeper connection. There's really no communication. There's no intentionality, and there's no focus on this important relationship. So you have to distinguish. Look, that's something I've been heard is called throwaway time, and I'm all about throwaway time. That's fine. We need it here and there stuff, but if you never have focused, intentional quality time, the odds of getting below the surface, of having a stronger relationship, of being the one your sons or daughters go to for that deeper advice instead of their friends or the internet, is terrifying.
Yep.
It's so you have to facilitate the principles of quality time. And, I share a few of those in the book. Well, what does that look like? And I'll share some of those today, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to pull this out of your book. You said quality time is a time, you already said this, I'm just quoting, is a time where we shift our focus away from ourselves and our worries and place it with intention on someone else. I just thought that was such a powerful quote. I couldn't let it slip without putting it in the interview. So good. It's so good. And then, can you talk to us about this great lie that men believe? There's a great lie that men believe about their time. And we've already addressed it a little bit, but do you want to extrapolate?
Yeah, no, the great, like you said, I call it the great entrepreneurial lie because I worked with a lot of small business owners, but it's really a career. It could be, an artist, an athlete, a fireman, a police, a teacher. The lie is that, put your head down and build your career, and if you got to be kind of MIA for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, that's okay. You're going to build up what you need to provide and then some, and your family will understand. That's the great lie. And you'll be able to make that, someday I'll make it up. Well, someday never comes, and they don't understand. It is, I remember one time hearing that, a lot of things in life are a rubber ball. You drop them, they're going to bounce back. There's a few, your health, your family, they're glass balls. You just drop them, they're going to crack or they're going to shatter. And that's what we've seen here. So the great lie is, put your head down in your career for the next 5 to 7 years. Your family will understand. Someday we'll make it up to them. And that just doesn't happen.
Man, that is such a powerful analogy, Jim, that your family is not a rubber ball. It will not bounce back. It is a glass ball and it will shatter. That is I just want to repeat that. I want you to listen to that. Those relationships don't bounce back the way you want them to. They will shatter if you are not careful with those. So there is a question in the book that you ask men to answer to figure out whether or not they're spending quality time with a child. Now, I guess I would assume also, Jim, it'd be safe to assume that a parent could spend quality time with one child and not another. For example, you're a surfer, right? So you got one kid that loves to surf and one kid that likes to play the flute or something. You're going to be like, man, I naturally do this more. So I'm assuming that is that a wrong assumption that some parents will spend quality time with one?
That also happens with us, bullheaded dads that, can't relate with our daughters. And that's what the board meeting strategy, the family board meeting strategy is about.
Yes.
It helps break that down to equal the playing field, to honor their interests and passions and talents, not just your own. And that's an important part of our strategy.
And we're going to get to that in a second. So what is that question that you're telling guys to ask to find out whether or not they're spending quality time with a child?
I asked the simple question: when's the last time you spent a half day or a day with your child uninterrupted without your phone on, doing something of their choice, one-on-one?
And when I first read that, so my kids are out of the house. When I first read that, I stepped back and went, man, that is raising the bar, because I thought you were going to say sit down and read a book or spend an hour, but you're saying carve out of your schedule, guys. When is the last time? Well, we'll get to the carving in a second here, but when is the last time you spent a day alone with your child, no electronic distractions, while enjoying a fun activity and meaningful conversation? And then you added that they choose.
Yeah. The problem is, Jim, we have good intentions, right? Like you just said, you went hunting. Now, obviously your boys like hunting, so they were going, but let's say that you and I, or you really liked football and your sons had zero interest in football, and you drag your youngest son onto a football game, and your buddies are there too. It's a good time. You go home and you punch yourself in the arm and say, man, I'm a great dad. See, we bonded. But our intentions are good. But what if they really have no interest in football or antique car show? You're like, I love antique cars. Come on. And they'll do it to honor you, but you know what I mean? We do a lot of assuming.
Yes.
And if we would just say, and it could be, look, like my oldest loves fishing. I liked fishing as a kid. I still like to go. If I had my choice of surfing or fishing, if it was just me, I'm going to choose surfing 9.9 times out of 10. It's just what I'd rather do.
Yep.
I love my son that much, so I'll go fishing with him. So this is where we can really break down the walls of being pushy parents. We try to plan it. This is what we're going to do, and their intentions. But sometimes also our kids don't want to hurt our feelings. They'll go along with it. So we want to make sure we're letting them plan the day. And when they plan the day, especially at younger ages, Jim, man, all these things start to uncover things they really enjoy, things that they're good at. My son now, he's at age 19. He has his charter fishing. He got his boat captain's license at 18.
Whoa.
He get it, and he has a charter fishing business. Well, what do you think we did on these one-on-one days? Every quarter, almost every time we went fishing, because that's what he chose to do. And so, things start to unveil themselves if you just let your kids plan, and some people go to me, oh, well, my teens would never spend a day with me without their phone. I say one of the best ways to get them buy-in is to let them plan the day, because now they have buy-in, because they're choosing it. Also, for me, pretty controversial. I get it, Jim, but we only do this. I do it every quarter with my kids. Once or twice a year, I'll let them miss a day of school. Because in 50, what's more important? A day that him and I got to connect and do that and learn lessons and talk deeper on things and strengthen our relationship, or those 1 or 2 days of school a year? For me, it's a no-brainer. But people say, how do I get my team to buy in? Let them plan it, take a day of school off. And I don't know. For me, it's worked well.
I'll tell you what, man, I could not agree more. I could not agree more, especially, I don't know, I won't even get into the state of the public schools, but here's what I will say. Here's what I will say.
Another hour of conversation.
I remember I called when my middle son Darby was in like 8th grade. It was the end of duck season and the Bucks were in the rut. And I called at the administrative office. I said, hey, my son Darby's out of school. He's sick. Oh, he is? I'm sorry. Yeah, he's got buck fever. He won't be in. Man, that gal, she didn't know how to handle it. She didn't know how to handle it. I'm like, hey, I told you he's not in school. I told you he's got a fever. Now you're going to get your public school money, so you're good to go. So, but you said something that was really interesting, Jim, and I want to draw this out because you work with entrepreneurs. Is it difficult for these men who are leaders to allow the control of their child to pick? Or do these guys want to kind of lean into it and go, we're doing this, we're doing this? Has that been has that pushback there?
Yeah, we're pushy people, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That's where A personality, go, get it done. So I think so. Most would say, no, it's not, but it is. What's really hard is, one of my rules, which we'll talk about today, or one of my principles, is the principle of intermittent tech fasting.
Yes.
And when I spend a half day with my kids, my phone's off for 4 or 5 hours. You can't get me. It's just I might keep it on airplane mode to just snap a few pictures of the day to commemorate it. But you're not reaching me by text, by email, by phone, by social media. It ain't happening. And a lot of people run their own business. They feel like the business world is going to explode into fiery dust in 4 to 5 hours if they can't be reached. And that's one of the biggest things that I see for our strategy, where they're like, "Whoa, what do you mean? I'm cutting off and on a Wednesday afternoon from 12 to 5 and no one can reach me." It can be pretty scary for certain people. But the good news so far, working with thousands of families out there, no one's business has actually exploded within those 4 to 5 hours. I haven't had one person.
It's a miracle, man. It's a miracle.
Damn it, you lied to me. My business blew up in those 4 hours. So,
and I'll tell you what, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. My kids say that I'm an entrepreneur because we've got this thing going on. But one of the things I've learned about entrepreneurs is we need those times to completely disengage, because because an entrepreneur's day never ends, right? It just never ends. So it's important to pull those blocks out and say, I'm out. It not only helps us with our child, but it actually helps us to shut the brain off. The surfing, you get out in the water, you're surfing, you don't have your phone with you. You shut your brain off, you focus. It's renewal. I mean, you don't have your cell phone out there, do you? I hope not.
That I can say I've never seen that. I think that would be that would be a shocker if I ever saw that.
That dude would have an issue.
And this, not to get controversial, but I did see one time outside about a year and a half ago, a guy wearing a mask out in the surf, and I didn't even know how to respond to that. So we won't go on to that. But the weirdest thing I ever saw, no phone, but definitely a mask, and I got a kick out of that. So anyway, we move on.
Well, you and I have a feeling you and I feel the same way about those things. So we could probably talk offline and have some great laughs. Like, you're in your car alone and you're wearing a mask. What are you doing? What are you doing, bro? Come on, buddy. Hey, anyway, so Jim, tell us about this family board meeting. It sounds like you get the whole family together, but I know from the book that that's not true. So can you unpack what makes a family board meeting a family board meeting?
Yeah. So our strategy is to follow what most successful entrepreneurial companies do, which is you get together once a quarter to reunite the team and look forward to the next 90 days. Yes. However, we've learned that that's important to do on an individual basis. So you got to separate the parts to strengthen the whole, which is my first step. So what makes it a family board meeting is making sure that you're doing this just one-on-one with each one of your children. So this is not a family board meeting. It is not the whole family. It's individualized. It's a meeting with each of your children one-on-one. And that's got to be at least 4 hours to get that, decompression and open up and relax people to really connect. And we also, we'll go over all three steps, but, just know a family board meeting is individualized time with each of your children every quarter, every 90 days.
Okay, that's really powerful. So I'm going to ask a couple questions that this inspired in me. So what would you tell a man about his wife? Do you practice something similar with Jamie Lee?
So my wife and I talk about the power of rhythms. So these steps that I'm going to talk about, I practice all of them with my wife on a weekly basis. So I do a weekly date night. And there's a couple of things I can talk to on that. We don't miss date night, rarely ever, even with 5 kids. And I know this is one of the simple, most overlooked things that I'll hear about people struggling in their marriage, and they'll have a few kids and they have some stress, and they'll say, well, when's the last time you guys were one-on-one on a date? Oh, I don't know, 9 months ago. And there's some obvious that. So I do this with my wife. Jamie and I also do an overnight every quarter by ourselves. Which is super important, I think. We love our kids. We love our time just to ourselves. And sometimes you need that reset, because the conversation is very different when it's just Jamie and I than it's with our all 5 kids or our 11-month-old, or, it changes. So that's how the family board meetings work. It's individual, focused, intentional quality time that you schedule. And the number one reason everything we talk about today, Jim, will fail is not because the steps don't work or the principles, or there's not tons of case studies of lots of people that have done this, thousands and thousands of families now. Why it won't work is because you don't schedule it.
Well,
not what you schedule gets done.
I'm really impressed that you have the weekly date night. My wife and I, when we had 3 sons, when our sons were in the home, every Thursday night we had a date night. And I met with a guy last week, an entrepreneur, has a great job, 36 years old, high stress. He said, one of my goals, we're working through a book this year called Atomic Habits. And he said, one of my goals this year is to be on a date with my wife once a month. And I stopped and I said, hey, buddy, no. Why don't you ask her about that? And he goes, what? And I go, she's going to be so pissed at you. You need to go out every week with her. He goes, what? I go, dude, ask her. Say, would you rather have a date night once a week or once a month? And then you can thank me later.
I can bet the ranch on how she came back.
Long.
Look, a week is too long sometimes. But look, we do it. And since we're on this, we should stay on this for a minute. Look, this is such a simple thing. Same bat time, same bat channel. So what did you just say? Every Thursday night. Mine's every Wednesday night, 5:30 to 8:30. So actually, right when I finish this, about a half hour afterwards on Costa Rica time, I'm out. Why not? Today's Thursday. What do we do? Date? Oh man, we did date night last night. Holy cow!
So that's awesome.
Night. We actually this week we spoiled ourselves. We did a date night Tuesday night and Wednesday night. So we do it twice sometimes because we're on our little hiatus down in Costa Rica. Totally. But if you pick the same day and the same time, well, then you can't ever say, well, I scheduled some sort of work thing, or I scheduled a podcast, or my team knows, that's date night. Don't schedule an investor dinner or a podcast or a client call. And also my wife knows we can get a sitter. If you're always trying to struggle every week to figure out, let's try to go Saturday. Well, maybe, Thursday, or maybe Friday or Tuesday. And then you're trying to match up a sitter or something because you have kids. It just doesn't work. So when you go same bat time, same bat channel, like you said, every Thursday, every Wednesday, 5:30 to 8:30, then the odds of it staying, and it. And plus I'm ADD entrepreneur. I can't mess it up. I don't forget that. I know, that time is blocked on my calendar and I'm not putting anything on it.
It's systematic.
Yeah.
It's just so my wife and I called it a sacred cow. So let me ask this question. I don't know the answer to this. We're like totally off script right now.
No,
how complex, how creative, how much planning do you personally put into your date nights?
So this is part of actually our 18 Summers program. We like to mix it up a little bit with walks. And we do like to go to dinner. That's something my wife and I like to do. We're right near St. Augustine, or last night, we hopped on an ATV and drove to one of our favorite, little restaurants. And that's really nice. So here's 2 things we plan. We do talk about excitement. Where do you want to go to eat, or do you want to go for a walk somewhere? But we have a cheat sheet now, what we do. Because when we used to go on dates, Jim, it was, the Casanova romance of, how was the weather today? What did the kids do at school today? What errands do we have to run this weekend? It's like, oh my gosh, put me to sleep. It's like you're like roommates or administrative assistants.
Business partners.
Yeah. So what we started to do, because, better questions, better life, we started to compile questions to ask each other. Now, and don't be the over ambitious entrepreneur here, or whatever, athlete. One question, maybe 2. And we ask those, and they're deep questions. It's not what's your favorite color. It's what's the best trip we ever took together, and your memories from it. When did you finally figure out, when's the moment you figured out you were in love with me? Who as a child was your most impactful teacher in your life, and why? I've done that with people in some top executive things. Their teams and marriages within that room were never the same. They learned about something. So we try to bring this little deck of cards. And this isn't a pitch, but yes, we sell them because people say, can you put them together? So it's 52 little cards. You can put them in your pocket. You pull them out. One question, date a week. So think about it. Imagine a deep question, uninterrupted, on a date once a week for a full year. How much more are you going to know your spouse, know yourself, bring important things back into focus? Better questions, better relationships. So our prep, we've kind of pre-prepped by, we compile questions and question cards, put them into a deck, bring them with us, and, we shuffle and we pick a question and we really go deep on it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, my favorite question for my wife, I only have to ask it once, and then she just goes the whole date night. Hey, honey, tell me about your heart.
Wow, that's a great one.
Boom, it's over. So, but what I wanted to say there is that, dinner or a walk, it doesn't have to be complex.
No, and if some of the stress is out there, well, I can't afford to take her to the 5-star restaurant, then don't. Go out for a coffee and go for a walk. That's $6, $7, depending on where you're going, and go for a walk uninterrupted on a free trail. And, if you're in the cold, bundle up. So it's that simple. And so I think we put up these excuses in our mind, like, I got to put on a tuxedo and there needs to be violins playing behind me. And I can't afford that. Well, then don't do that. That's not what this is about. It's about the conversation, the focus, and the lack of interruption.
That's so good, man. I would say to guys, Guy, you are too busy not to have a date night with your wife every week.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. It's not worth your marriage.
No. So. Well, and how have we built our lives if we cannot set an important meeting with our most important partner in our life? I feel my wife is my most important, investor, partner, team player, whatever. So if I can't slate that for her, I've really messed up my priorities.
Yeah, she's the most important person on the planet.
I agree.
So I agree. We're on the same page. Okay, so here's another question I have. You have 5 kids.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit more than average. And you're talking quarterly. So we're talking 4 a year, or are you talking 3 a year?
4.
4 a year. So that's 20 total family board meetings with your children. So that's quite a bit. So my question is, do you overlap them? Do you stack them ever? Like you do 2 in one day or 3 in one day, or how do you typically deal with that?
I think I've done 2 a few times, but I don't really like to do that either.
Yeah. Okay.
So I go for 1 a day at most.
Okay.
Remember, and I usually start them at the age of 2.5. My youngest right now is almost a year, so I'm only doing 4.
Okay.
And again, this is not about perfection, Jim.
Yep.
I'm the creator of this, and not last year, but the year before, because of cancellations and that, we only got 3 in. So in 11 years, we did 4, but it was not this year, the year before, we only got 3 in. There was things canceled and this and that, and I got 3 in. And you're the creator of this. What the hell is the matter with you, right? This is the problem with all of us. We're like, well, screw it. I missed 1. It's dead. Throw the baby out with the bathwater. And it's like, God dang it. No, you so what? Even if you only got 2 in this year, how many of you, I'm asking the listeners now, how many of you got 2 uninterrupted days with your father like this when you were a kid, and they've passed on now, and you're like, dang, I would have done anything. So, you miss one, get back on the horse for the next quarter. I've seen that happen too. And that's really important to remember. This is not about a perfect calendar record, because even I missed one the year before last. And be gentle with yourself. You miss one, get to the next quarter, do it again.
I appreciate that. Actually, in the prefix of your book, you said it's never too late to connect deeply with your children. So, hey, you miss one, get back on the horse again. You're okay. So that's good stuff. So, hey, man, I really appreciate all this stuff on date night. This is really healthy and good and positive. And I think these guys, if they're not doing a weekly date night, they really need to. But I want to jump in to this family board meeting with your children. I think there's some powerful stuff. It's so simple. It's so simple that if a guy implements these 3 steps to connection, it'll be a game changer over the next 30 years. So let's do this. Let's unpack these really powerful and profound steps to connection. So let's start with step 1. What is step 1?
And remember, these steps are what I use for getting together for half a day every quarter with each of my kids. However, with that said, these 3 steps line perfectly up with date night as well. So you'll see that.
Yep.
So step number one, the most overlooked, one of the most potent relationship builders out there, that I think it's a tragedy that's, so many of these professionals that are supposed to be helping relationships don't talk about. And it's gotten the most results. Don't listen to anything else today. That's fine with me. Listen to this one thing. It's the one-to-one principle.
Yes.
You have to have one-on-one time. You got to separate the parts to strengthen the whole. Big family gatherings are great. I was raised Irish Catholic, which means I have like 4,000 cousins. And these big things are great, but it's not those big gatherings where most of the more intimate conversation occurs. One-on-one time puts the magnifying glass on the relationship in a positive way, takes away distraction, takes away sibling rivalry. If your children lean more towards your spouse because they're around more, they're easy to talk to, well, that takes you out of the situation. Mm-hmm. So that's something you got to look at. So one-on-one time is one of the most powerful ways to strengthen that relationship. And when you strengthen the parts, you will strengthen the whole. And by doing one-on-one time scheduled with each member of the family, you can never get accused of, the Jan Brady, Marsha, right?
Yeah.
Everyone gets their time. And again, if there had to be one step that's made the most difference in my life that I didn't get as a kid growing up in a family of 5, was one-on-one time. One-on-one time, it's different. It's almost like, if you remember in that first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, when the big bully comes up to punch him, he's at the locker, and it's that you know what I'm talking about? The fist
Oh yeah.
And, Peter Parker is looking at it, he's like, man, it's like you can see things so much more in that one-on-one time. That's, you're almost got this different level of intuition when you start to spend focused one-on-one time.
Oh man, that's so cool, Jim, because man, I only have one kid. Yeah. I'm on cruise control, bro. What do you say to that guy?
Well, that's when you think you're cheating. I think I write in the book where I was at one of my retreats. Yeah, Chad, we're asking about one-on-one time, and his mom's a really good mom, entrepreneur mom, his dad too. He said, well, my mom works from home, so we really don't get a lot of one-on-one time. That's coming from a single child. So it's not just you're in the presence, like I talked about before, yep. But one-on-one time is focused, and one-on-one time is not just one person, but it also involves step 2, which I brought up before, which is intermittent tech fasting.
Yes.
These little, boxes that we carry around now, hey, they're great. I mean, I appreciate technology. I'm not even sure where you are, Jim, but I'm in Costa Rica right now.
I'm in Oregon.
You're in Oregon. We're pretty far away.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation, and we couldn't do that. However, there's times where you and I need to be completely and totally unavailable.
Yep.
Social media can't get to us. Text can't get to us. Email can't get to us. Phone calls can't get to us. And when that starts to come in your one-on-one, again, game changer. People don't realize, and again, one of the hardest things about these half days is, we're getting together one-on-one, mm-hmm. but then our phones are going off. And it's this fear. Holy, I haven't, that little security blanket. Let me check this. Dopamine. But when you do, all of a sudden there's this like decompression. And now it's, again, that slowdown, like I was talking, like Spider-Man, where you can see things, and you have no choice but to be with the person in front of you. So you have to practice step 2. Intermittent tech fasting is one of the most powerful ways to have a better relationship with your family, not only for these half days, but like I said, Jim, horribly embarrassing, but guess who used to take his phone on date night? This guy. Guess who should get the Moron of the Year award? Me and you. So raising your hand, thank you. And like, what the hell was I thinking? Answering a text, an email, a phone call? We're on a date. So my phone's never invited on date night. My wife brings hers because she's more disciplined. We got to have, access to the sitter. Yeah. But believe me, date night's gotten a hell of a lot better without that. So step number 2, I'm not telling you guys to give up technology, but you do have to you have to disconnect to reconnect. Yep. You gotta be able to have times of complete and total unavailability to the people in front of you. And it's one of the best ways you can say you are a priority. And also, why would a child or your wife come to you with something that's really pressing if you're always busy? Next text, next Facebook thread. Well, they're like, well, he's so busy though. He's so busy. We always have this air of busyness when that thing is in our hands and active, and it might be something that's totally, obsolete. compared to what your son or your daughter or your wife or husband might be wanting to talk to you about.
Man, that's so good, man. So step 2 is disconnect to reconnect. And so I've always got guys listening that want the loophole, right? They're looking for the loophole. I'm just going to read your quote from page 43. I think this will remove any loopholes. You said this: the rule is simple. No texts, no emails, no calls, no screens. Your phone is off. No sounds, no alerts, no vibrations. Your computer is off. The TV is off too. Screen sucking together in front of a TV is no better than screen sucking alone.
Yeah.
I love that. Screen sucking. That's great. But hopefully guys are like, so are you saying I can't bring my phone?
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
bro.
You can't, like what I said is the only loophole, which takes out all those things, is I do like to commemorate this day. So put it on airplane mode, because all your stuff won't work then except your camera, and you can take a picture. And so that's, something you want to look at. But just know you are not as multitasking as you think you are. I talk about this in some of my newer talks. My daughter, who's 8 now, when she was 5, I tried to turn off my phone for about 2 hours every night when I come home. Leave the phone in the car or in my computer bag. Get home, we get on the trampoline. I didn't follow my own rule. We all know that horrible noise in our pocket. Zzz, zzz, zzz. So without even looking at it, I go into 4 different things, scenarios. Well, I pull my phone out, breaking my own rule. I'm on the trampoline with my daughter, 5-year-old. And someone dropped the ball on a real estate closing I was doing on a deal. I mean, simple little stuff, and it got totally screwed up. But now it's 5:30. Nothing can be done. Well, what am I doing? I'm going into fixed scenario. I'm swearing under my breath. And I'll never forget, right there in front of me is I come to, what's in front of me, and my 5-year-old staring at me with this really sad, quivery look. And I look at her, and she says, "Daddy, why are you so mad at me?" And it's like, oh man, like jab a knife in my side and turn it, right?
Yep.
Because I couldn't even see her in front of me. I was so wrapped up in this, and she couldn't understand what was happening. So this is the danger of trying to be on that. And I tell this to teens too, who might, if you're, turn off your phone once in a while. If you're, sitting on the couch with your whole family, and all of a sudden, someone you don't really like put something on Instagram, and it really bugs you and annoys you. Do you think you're going to be nicer to your parents or to your little sister? Or no, it's going to pull you out. And this is where we have to have times of unavailability. So intermittent tech fasting, not telling you to give it up, but just like intermittent fasting, the health technique, you're not giving up eating. You're just picking times to do it. And it, as you said, it can really re-nourish you to have that downtime.
Yeah. And I think just having general boundaries, man, the world's not going to die if you're not available after 7. It will survive. So I think sometimes we as guys, we overestimate how unimportant we really are. So anyway, so step 3 in connection is what?
Step 3 is fun activity with focused reflection. So I'm a big fan of alternative education. I think a day on the field is better than 10 days in the classroom. So when you let them plan the day and go all in, you might be going fishing, to the beach, having a princess party like I've had a few times with my daughter. Whatever they want, I'm all in. Let them plan the day and spend time for focused reflection at the end. Just conversation at the end of the day afterwards. You've decompressed. You've probably had a meal. And that's the third step. And focused reflection, something that we've really gotten deeper onto, and I talk about in the book. This is a really good time after enjoying each other, going all in on their planned day, where there's usually 2 things needed in all relationships, and that's a sincere apology or a genuine compliment.
Oh.
And both of them are very hard for stubborn-headed people that think they have immunity. So like for a lot of business people I work with, hey, we can be cranky, we can be short, we can be distant, we can be overwhelmed, we can, break promises with our family because we're getting work done. And we think we have this immunity. Yeah, but I provide. I'm running a business, or I'm running 2 businesses, and whatever, I'm holding down this career of demand, and that's great. And providing is a big honor for our families, but it doesn't give us immunity. to be disrespectful or break promises, or not show up. And then when we don't, we're like, well, I'm not apologizing. I'm providing. I got immunity. So that's something that I've really learned. And also, sometimes we get busy. Sometimes we think we've been made a very clear compliment to our wife, to our son, to our daughter that we've never said, and would make a huge difference if we took the time and had the courage or vulnerability to say, I'm really proud of you. And it might not be that they won the biggest award or something. It's, just the way that I've watched you help your mother last week. Like, I've just, the heart of service that you're showing, with doing that with your mom. And I was really impressed and so proud of you. We don't take the time to do that. And when we do, again, their guard goes down and the connection becomes closer. But I can't tell you how often, Jim, after people have a great activity together, go all in, have a meal, have some real conversation, and then the chance for a real compliment or a real apology comes up and you take it, you have the courage to actually do it, the relationship gets better.
So I think I'm tracking with you here. So step 3, choose a fun activity with focused reflection. The focused reflection component is twofold. Look for a compliment to offer and ask or apologize for something. Is that what I hear you saying, or am I missing something?
Yeah, focused reflection is just a term of it's experiential education where it's like, hey, what did you like about the day?
Oh, okay.
It's more just opening up the conversation. Let's focus on the day. What did you like? How was the meal? And that opens up the conversation, and you never know what they're going to say at that point. But what I found is when the conversation starts lighting, hey, sometimes the conversation might go 3 minutes. Other times it might go 30 minutes, an hour. But you just want to talk about the day. Oh, what did you enjoy today? Oh, you like that part? Yeah, me too. Well, what did you like? And then what did you like? Well, you know what? I've been busy and I feel like I've been distracted. I'm really enjoying this downtime with you right now. Whatever's the honest thing, you just talk about what you enjoyed about the day. And then it usually leads into other things. And that also might be a time of quiet where, hey, I was a real jerk last week. I was late for this. I didn't show up for this. I was short and impatient. That's not fair. I'm sorry. That wasn't on you. That's something I was working on, and some of the people out there, hey, this is when I've heard a lot of single parents say, I've been able to say, look, I'm sorry if this divorce has been hard on you. It's not your fault. You've been holding up better than anyone could ever imagine. I just want to say I'm sorry, but I don't want you to ever take this personally. We're talking deep opportunity here.
Yeah.
In the situation.
Well, it's interesting, Jim, as I interview, we interview at least 50 guys a year on this show. It's amazing how many guys talk about this thing called the father wound, being wounded or hurt by their dads. These are adult men. These are guys 50s, 60s. And when you talk about apologizing, it really hit me that maybe if we as dads identified areas where we wronged our children and actually apologized, those wounds would not be so blatant or damaging when these children become adults.
Yep, exactly. So it's a huge difference. And apologies aren't easy. I mean, it's a vulnerable thing to give an apology, very vulnerable. And that's not what any of us want.
That's really hard. That's really good, man. Well, I really appreciate these steps. Go one-on-one, disconnect to reconnect. You're calling it intermittent tech. What did you call it? Intermittent fasting?
It's something we coined, intermittent tech fasting. You've heard of intermittent fasting?
Oh, totally.
So it's intermittent tech fasting.
Absolutely.
You're not giving up tech. You're just choosing certain times to totally be off it.
That's awesome. And then choose a fun activity with focused reflection. And man, you may need to get an apology in there and make sure. I think it's always important to compliment, our especially our sons. They're always asking this question: am I good enough? Am I good enough? And man, we need to affirm that they're good enough. And our daughters are always asking, am I worthy enough?
Yeah.
And so that's our job as dads, right?
Look, and there is when you just say, let me give a little advice on this. For a genuine compliment, when you give that to them and you say you're worthy, or you are courageous, or you are a joy to be around, get specific.
Yes.
The bullshit detector cannot go off if you're specific. If you say, man, you're such a joy to be around, your son goes in his head, yeah, dad, okay, you're my dad. Of course you're going to say that. But if you say, you know what, you're such a joy to be around. Like last week when we were out, on the duck hunt, you made me laugh like 20 times talking about this and this and this. And then you're, concerned about your buddy on this. Like, you're just a joy to be around. And you give specifics. Now they can't argue with you. They can't. Their BS detector goes, okay, he's actually given specifics. I can't really argue this. So be specific when you're giving those compliments or you're saying those things. It goes a long way.
And I would say this, guys, it doesn't end when your kids are out of the house. My sons are adults and they need to hear it. They might need to hear it almost more sometimes. So it's really, really important. So, man, that's good stuff. So, hey, Jim, so listen, we've been talking about your book, Family Board Meeting. Where can these guys access you and your resources?
Yeah, if you're interested in getting one of our copy of our book, you can find it on Amazon. No problem. The Family Board Meeting, easy to find, easy to get. We do have an audio version as well for our people that like to listen. Short, easy read. I joked with you before, Jim. At big events, my book usually gets read first. I'm not saying because it's the best, but it's the least intimidating and short and potent, and also it's a pretty big subject. Not too many people focus on.
Yeah.
So you can find us on Amazon. You want to learn? Follow us on Instagram. My wife does a great job keeping up on our family life. How are we doing things? That's 18 Summers Tribe. And then if you want to learn more about our programs and what we do, you can go to 18summers.com.
Man, I sure appreciate it. Hey, guys, let's get some boots on the ground here. How are we going to respond to today's episode? Here's what I want you to do. Pick up this resource. You're going to love it. But, guys, get this family board meeting scheduled. All you got to do is multiply times 4. 2 kids, 8 times. 1 kid, 4 times. Well, but you include your wife in there, bro. She deserves an every week deal. So, guys, make sure you get this on the calendar. It's never too late. Guys, thanks so much. Hey, Jim, thanks so much for coming on the show all the way from Costa Rica. Man, we're international, baby. Man, sure appreciate having you on today.
Good being here. Thanks, Jim.
Oh, man. All right, great. Hey, guys, our man laws, again, are supplied by you, and this week's man law comes from an anonymous source. And I think it's anonymous because he did not want his wife to hear his name about this man law. So here it is. Men never miss the toilet. They just leave their mark. We're going to protect your identity, man. We got your back. Hey, guys, make sure you head on over to meninthearena.org. Grab your free copy of my book, Tell Them What Great Fathers Tell Their Sons and Daughters. Make sure you sign up to join one of our many virtual teams that impact men from around the world. Guys, until next time, feel the wet sand on the arena floor. Hear the deafening roar of the crowd. Taste the sweetness of victory. Smell the stench of battle. Get in the game. Get dirty. Grind it out. And be a man.